Hello there, I'm Alex and this is Sinspiration, where I inspire you to develop a growth mindset. A couple weeks ago, I made a video about whether or not grad school is worth it. With online learning becoming increasingly popular and accessible, as well as a growing job market for people with graduate degrees, you've most likely considered grad school yourself. I want to share with you my experience of doing grad school part-time while working full-time to show you how manageable it actually is and what life may look like. So this will be more of an inside scoop and a supplement to my previous video about grad school. My goal is to show you that the sacrifices and investment are worth every second and dime you spend. Let's flash back to December 2017. That month, I had a revelation that I wanted to do grad school to study AI and machine learning because I knew that that is the future of technological innovation in my lifetime, and I just have to be a part of it. I wrote my statement of purpose first, where I wrote about the future I envisioned and how my background in embedded systems and AI will contribute to building that future. GPA met the minimum requirement. Letters of rec secured with my 2 professors who know me best and my manager. GRE? SAT all over again. I spent about 3 months studying before taking it once, then studied for 1 more month before taking it a second time. All of this was done while working, not too difficult to manage. I studied maybe 1 to 2 hours each weeknight and 6 to 8 hours on the weekends. Once those apps were in, I was chillin'. I was fortunate to get into 4 out of the 5 schools that I applied to, including UCLA, my top pick. During the summer of 2018, I took a UCLA extension course on project management because I had a free course as a recent graduate and I didn't want to waste it. And so that was a good taste of what the work school life would look like. Fall 2018 was when it officially started. My typical schedule would look something like work on the weekdays, watch the 2 2-hour lectures during the weekday evenings, and do the assignments on the weekends. The online format makes it convenient. I could watch whenever I'm free, rather than attending lectures at a specific time every week. Didn't understand? Replay. Too tired? Pause. Hungry? Eat first. Bathroom break? Anytime I want. Soak in the knowledge after a long day of work? About 80%. Taking 1 class was easier than 3 to 4 classes in undergrad. The class was also fairly interesting, and I was lucky enough to have a professor who communicated effectively. Spreading out the 2 lectures over 5 days also helped me a lot. On the weekends, I'd spend most of the time working on the coding projects. It was time consuming for sure, maybe 6 to 12 hours, depending on how difficult it was to get the code working. The exams were very convenient. I just had to schedule a time with my proctor who worked at my company to take the exam in a meeting room. Sometimes in lieu of a final exam, you just have to work on a final project. I did make some sacrifices to accommodate my new schedule. For starters, I hung out with friends a lot less, stopped going to their happy hours, and also stopped going to weekly board game nights. I did continue to play beach volleyball as my way of socializing, as well as to get exercise. Exercise is a great way to release endorphins, and that helps with studying. As for work, I worked for 40 hours a week and no more than 43 hours. I was fortunate that it wasn't necessary to work overtime or on the weekends. I also spent less time shopping for groceries and necessities, or bought Costco food after shopping so I didn't have to cook. For cooking, I'd minimize the number of times I have to cook each week by meal prepping and cooking for maybe 2 to 3 meals at a time. Less cooking means less cleaning. I limited myself to 2 TV episodes per night. Each episode was 40 minutes to an hour, and I watched one while eating and another while doing dishes. You gotta relax a bit each day. I did attend all of my work groups' happy hours after the all-hands meetings. Again, free food, didn't have to cook, as well as I watched UCLA football games on TV with my good friend from time to time. Overall, this new lifestyle wasn't that bad. I really enjoyed learning and working on the projects in grad school, and I was still able to make time for social activities and personal time on a weekly basis. There were two events from the first quarter that I didn't mention. The first one is I was job searching. I know it's such bad timing, but I always go for what's best for me. Work, school, and interviewing at the same time. Let's just say I wasn't able to study for the interviews as much as I needed because it was the lowest priority of the three. I also went on a 2-week-long family vacation to Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan. On the flight there, I was doing homework, and the flight attendant came and asked me what I was studying with my database systems textbook. Studying in the hotel wasn't as bad. At one point, I was on a cruise on the Yangtze River, and we didn't have internet. How can you do an online course without internet? So we ended up renting a Wi-Fi extender that leveraged the surrounding networks, and I was able to submit the assignment on time. But it still wasn't fast enough to watch the lectures. I even went up to the mountains in Taiwan where there was actually no internet. But I could still do schoolwork. I had a textbook, pencil, and paper. Studying the old way. When we went to a hotel with internet, I was able to scan my homework and submit it. Then when I came back, jet-lagged, I created my cheat sheet at SFO and took the midterm the very next day. I did all right. So as you can see, I have studied on a plane, on a river, in the mountains, all internationally. And there you have it, online learning at its finest. After completing my first class, it was time to submit an expense report to get reimbursed. I just had to submit my transcript with the final grade and the tuition receipt. My manager and engineering director approved it, and voila, $4,000 direct deposited into my bank account. Since my reimbursement was only $10,000 per year and each class costed $4,000, I took only 3 classes a year to maximize my funding from my employer. And with each class, it was usually more and more interesting, and it wasn't really difficult to rebalance my schedule since I was already used to it. From then on, I didn't take long vacations while working and doing school, and I did interview prep and job searching during quarters where I didn't take a class. It was nice to have 3 months off of school each year to focus on myself and spend more time with friends. I still traveled home for the holidays to see my family, went on short vacations, and have a life. Then the COVID-19 pandemic started and life went into hibernation. That didn't change online learning, and I even started working remotely until a couple months later, I was asked to go back and work in the labs to be more hands-on. Working full-time and doing class after class was manageable, and everything was well balanced until I got a new job. Luckily, this was my off quarter and I had time to focus on moving to the new place and transitioning into the new role. After 3 months, I resumed school. This time around, it was more challenging because my workload was heavier, my schedule was not as flexible as my previous jobs, and I had like 10 times more meetings than before. Then, my worst nightmare came. I was told I needed to work on the weekends. My weekends were reserved for doing those time-consuming homework assignments. I was shocked. First time in my career, I was required to work on the weekends. And my work, school, life balance shattered. I knew if I worked the entire weekend, I wouldn't be able to complete my assignments on time. Do I prioritize work or school? How am I going to get out of this? Desperate times call for desperate measures. I knew that work had priority, but I can't neglect school. The solution? Multitasking at its finest. I had 2 laptops open. While code or a test was running on one, I switched over to the other. In general, I paid more attention to work because I wanted to finish my responsibilities as fast as possible so I can focus on the rest of my time on schoolwork. That entire Saturday, I was working, like how Forrest Gump was running. Then I heard good news. My manager said we finished what we needed to do and could take Sunday off. Yes! I was able to complete my work and school assignments on time. Luckily, that was my last class and I survived my darkest hour. Doing a graduate degree while working full-time can be extremely stressful, but rewarding. It's all about time management. I continued to grow in my career, grow my income and savings, and paid only a fraction of the total tuition thanks to my employer. And in the end, I landed a job because of my master's degree. And so all that time and money was not spent in vain. I have demonstrated you can still have a life if you decide to pursue a master's while working. Of course, that will vary based on your job, program, and the stage of life you're in. Your 20s is the best time to finish education before work and life take over. Do this for yourself. If I've convinced you to do school while working, you can thank me by hitting that like button, commenting below, and subscribing to my channel, Sinspiration, for more tips on self-growth, personal finance, career development, and education. Also, follow me on TikTok and Instagram for shorts and reels. You've been inspired today! If something is truly worth doing, you will make time for it, even if you don't have time.